What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade basketball analysis coming to y'all with free agency live stream. This is the third one, but it's the cover up day two. I wanted to wait a little bit longer to upload this one compared to yesterday, just so I can cover more people instead of having to stop and go, stop and go. So we in the middle of the day, almost to the next day. So I want to cover as many free agents as I can. Honestly, I'm gonna cover basically every single free agent that got signed or traded. And this should be a fun day. Feel free to ask any question that you want throughout the video, as this is time to I spend with the fans also. So we're gonna start with the big ones. Obviously, that's what everybody want to know is the superstars, the all stars, the stars, and those type of guys. Demar Derozan will be leaving San Antonio, which is not a big surprise. Something that we definitely knew was going to happen eventually, but he agrees to a 3-year, $85 million sign-in trade with the Bulls. The Bulls will send Thaddeus Young, who was big for them, Al-Farouq Aminu, a future first-round pick, and 2 second-round picks. DeRozan averaged 21 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists last season for the Spurs. They have also added Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, and they did trade for Vucevic. And this team looks way better than last year. Last year, I felt like they wasn't going to make the playoffs because they didn't have enough. This year, they still need to fill out their bench a little bit, and then they'll be a playoff contending team, at least in the play-in tournament. Adding DeMar, who can play some three, obviously, because you want Zach LaVine at the 2 and Lonzo at the 1. Is athletic, can get up the court, not known as a great defender, but is a guy that can play with the ball, facilitate, score in the post, score from mid-range, get to the basket, shoot free throws. And you gave up a lot, 2 future first-round picks, and 2 second-round picks and some salary filler to match the contract. But the biggest loss is probably the picks. I didn't think that they would have to give up those 4 picks to get DeMar DeRozan, but it just shows you that even if a guy is still producing at a high level, teams want a lot of assets back just to get rid of them. And 85 million is not that bad because I do expect DeMar DeRozan to still be good, unless he get an injury that we don't know happens into the future. But if he stays healthy, he's going to be productive and he's going to be worth this contract. You paying him some high numbers too in his 3-year deal to make it work. But that's what you get when you're getting a guy that just gave you 21, 4, and 6. They needed more scoring. They need more shot creation. And I feel like Lonzo and DeMar fixes those problems. And having a guy that plays hard in defense and Alex Caruso should also help them too. We also looked at Kendrick Nunn will be going to the Lakers on a $10 million deal. He has a player option in year 2. He turned down some money from the Knicks that could have gave him a little bit more, and other teams to join a team that can possibly win a championship, which is the Los Angeles Lakers. Kendrick Nunn is a guy that can shoot the 3, contested, spot up, can hit floaters, can be a backup point guard, and really just be solid. He understands the game, doesn't really do anything crazy, gives you the ability to give you 8 to 10 points off the bench or more. And you can't really argue with that, especially where the Lakers are cap wise. Having a guy like Kendrick Nunn is pretty good for that price. And I think the Lakers got deeper with this. The Lakers also agreed to a 3-year, $32 million deal with Taylor Horton Tucker. A lot of people thought Taylor was going to be a max contract guy. A lot of people thought he'd be getting in the 60 million range, but he decided to stay home with the Lakers, the team that gave him the opportunity, the team that gave him a chance, the team that he won a championship with, and possibly more. He will only sign 32 million with this team, and that's a huge pay cut because he had a lot of potential, a lot of two-way ability, but ultimately decided to stay with the Lakers. He fits in to the bench role, giving another ball handler, another guy that can cut to the basket, a guy that can be a spark plug from time to time. They don't really use him that much, but he does just give them versatility, and they're not overpaying them. They're not, paying him a ton of money to come off the bench. He's a solid rotation player, and they paid him, basically what most veterans have been getting this free agency, which is the $30 million range. If you're a Laker fan, you're happy because he is at a low number. You already know what he brings to the team. You already know how he plays and what to expect from him because he's been there already. And on top of that, Horton Tucker has a player option in year 3 if he decides to want to go somewhere. He's not locked into this contract that long, as he can get out of it in 2 years if he decides to want more money or a different opportunity. Tony Snell also agrees to a 1 year deal with the Blazers. They needed length, they needed size after losing guys like Carmelo. Tony Snell gives them a 3-point shooter, a solid body, a guy that can even play some 2, 3, or 4, depending on the lineups and what you're trying to do. And a guy that usually just been productive throughout his whole career, has been a decent scorer for his roles, and a guy that understands what he is, and not going to be more than that, and not going to be an argumental, detrimental player. He's just going to be a veteran and be productive in the minutes. The Lakers also agree to a 1 year deal with the Carmelo Anthony. He had a big season for for the Blazers. 13 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist in 24 minutes. Also had a pretty good game against Denver this playoffs, and still shows that he is a weapon. He's a walking bucket, always have been since he was a rookie till now. And if you can even just get 9 to 10 points from Carmelo off the bench, that's huge because they didn't really have enough of that last year. And it's something with Kendrick Nunn, Taylor, and Carmelo and other guys I got to get to, that just show you that this Laker team, not only did they get Westbrook and some shooters, they got Westbrook and a lot of scorers. And that's something that they didn't really have coming off the bench last year. Also, Malik Monk, another scorer. Malik averaged 11 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists in 20 minutes. Where Charlotte had some injury problems. At the end of the day, he also shot 40% on 5 3-point attempts per game. I thought that he would be out of Charlotte. They're going in a different direction, and they couldn't keep all the guys anyway, especially when they don't really have enough playing time for all of them. And Malik Monk has been a bust pretty much. People looked at him as a guy with all-star upside. People looked at him as a Lou Williams type of guy, and I guess you can say he lived up to that, getting 11 points off the bench. I think he's not going to play as much with the Lakers, but if somebody goes down with an injury or they need somebody that can be a difference maker every once in a while, Malik Monk definitely can get hot. He can play on and off the ball, can get his own shot if need be, if you have late clock situations, and a guy that can catch and shoot. So that gives them another weapon off the bench, another scorer, and another athlete, a guy that can get up and down the court, a guy that can cover a lot of space, and a guy that can really win you some games, even in the playoffs. Patty Mills agreed to a 2 year, $12 million deal with the Brooklyn Nets. They needed a guy like Patty. They just faced him in Team USA versus Australia, and he showed that he had a lot left in the tank. That 3 ball is still wet, and Brooklyn needed some guards. They was able to figure that out through the draft. They still have Joe Harris. They still have James Harden. They got Cameron Thompson. They got Kyrie Irving. They got Javon Carter. And now they got Patty Mills, that third guard that I feel like they was missing a little bit last year when it comes to scoring. And now they have that field with Patty Mills. Robin Lopez also agreed to a 1 year, $5 million deal with the Magic. He's productive. He's going to come in, give you buckets, play hard, rebound to the best of his ability. Not the same player. Wish he would have went to another team that can really utilize him and give more winning. But if you can stay in the league and have an opportunity to get minutes and collect another check, you're not going to really be mad about that. I can see Robin Lopez being a buyout guy in the future and getting picked up by a veteran team if he doesn't fit well with Magic, or they don't really like him, or he wants to do something different before the season over. That will always be an option. And $5 million ain't that much. That's pretty good for what he brings to the table. Also, I wanted to talk about Steph Curry. He did agree to a 4 year, $250 million extension, which is huge. Diddy, Luzada will sign a 4-year deal with the Pelicans. He's young. He's not going to get paid much. Not going to really be a big factor on that team to me. His first couple years on that contract. Abdul Nader will sign a 2-year deal with the Phoenix Suns. He has been known as a solid rotation player, adds a little bit of depth to the Suns if they need him. Don't see him playing a significant amount, but can be a guy that you can rely on as a third string player. Also, Taj Gibson agrees to a 1-year deal. This is one of Tibbs' guys. He had a decent role for the Knicks, and Tibb likes his guys. He got Derrick Rose to come back. He got Taj Gibson to come back. He only paying him 2.7 million, so he's worth that. So you get another defender, another rebounder, another screen setter, and some backup to Julius Randle to give him some rest. And if he goes down, you got a guy that understands what he's supposed to do in his role, and you can't really fight for that. Andre Drummond also agreed to a 1-year deal for the veteran minimum to go to the Sixers. Everybody's been talking about him and Big B beefing and talking trash to each other. Now they're teammates now they get to know each other. Now they can build a better future instead of be enemies. But at the end of the day, this is business. Andre Drummond just trying to stay in the league. He's going to have a role with the Sixers and not really coming off a high, didn't play good in the playoffs, tried to do too much, didn't defend well, didn't really understand what was going on the court from time to time throughout that series. And you even consider benching him when he was with the Lakers, even though he was brought in to be a starter. And now we're probably going to see him coming off the bench at this point of his career. He's still going to have longevity because of his size and mobility and his rebounding ability that's going to keep him in the league, but just in a smaller role than being a starter. And I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with that contract. James Johnson agrees to a 1-year deal with the Nets. This is just bringing another veteran, another player, just to give them depth that they can interchange throughout the season if they want to keep him or not, and not be committed to him if they want to find somebody better. But they got a guy that can take up a spot now that they can try out and see if they want to keep him or not before the season starts or the season is over. They can move on from him. Rodney Hood also agrees to a 1-year deal with the Bucks. Still haven't been the old Rodney Hood that we loved, but maybe he can get back to that with a full summer off, to get healthy, to get his shot back, to get his rhythm back. He's not going to have a huge role to me with the Bucks, but he just gives somebody that can be a second, third option at the guard forward position. Also can give them some small ball lineups, some scoring, some shooting if he can get that shot back, which he hasn't really shown a little bit since he's been injured with that ACL. But you're only paying him a cheap, waivable contract. If he doesn't work, if he does fit, then you're getting a guy that can be a guy that can give you 15 to 20 minutes, and you can't really argue with that. Bruce Brown will return to the Nets for the 4.7 million qualifying offer. This gives him the ability to get more money next season. So he already had a huge role and really made a name for himself with the Nets last year, and now he can try to capitalize on that next year. Was a solid defender, can hit floaters, finish around the rim, rebound, effort, energy, hustle is something that he really did, and those are small little things that you need your role players to do, and he was able to do that quite often for the Nets. Still not the greatest offensive player, but he makes up for it with his effort and energy, and he just plays hard, and he really wants to make it in the league. We'll see what happens to him next year. Bielisa agrees to a 1-year deal with the Warriors. I'm not going to make a big deal out of this one either, just because I don't really see him having a huge role on this Warriors team, but he just gives them depth, a solid veteran, and you can't really argue with that. And he's going to be a guy to keep out, watch on for the Warriors as the season goes on. If he stays with this team or be moved or even waived, that'll be interesting around the buyout time. Gorgie Jang will agree to a 1-year, $4 million deal with the Atlanta Hawks. I think that's pretty good for them, because they get size at the center position, which you can say they didn't have enough length and size, especially losing some guys. And Gorgie can give them some mid-range shooting, potential three-point shooting, rebounder, big body that can block some shots from time to time, a little softer, a little bit more finesse, but they still do have Clint Capella, who's going to be playing the bulk of the minutes at center. And if he needs a break or get injured, at least you got a guy that can come in and give you a little bit something different. Also, lineup wise, you can try him, and he can give you something that Dwayne Dedman brought to them a couple years ago. And you're only giving them 1 year, $4 million. So if it worked, you can bring him back. If it doesn't work, you can let him go. If he's just solid in that role, you're only paying the $4 million. So I look at this as a win-win for Gorgie Jang and the Hawks. They got something they needed, and he gets a chance to play on an up-and-coming team that's hungry to prove themselves again. Marc Gasol confirms he'll return to the Lakers in 2022, 21-22 season. So they do have another center in Marc Gasol. Didn't really play amazing for them, but still was a solid rotation player and gave them space in certain lineups, and still was a decent defender for his age. Rudy Gay also agrees to sign a 2 year, $12 million deal with the Jazz. I was a little shocked that this happened, but they do need more wing play just in case they guys go down. He fits what they do, a guy that can handle the ball, make the pass, make a three, make a mid range, finish around the paint, post up a little bit, just gives them more depth at the wing position, can also play small ball four, and that can give them a little bit more versatility. So Rudy Gay, that's a great deal, a great pickup, sneaky good pickup for the Utah Jazz. And I like the fact that they did this. This is something that I didn't see coming, but now that I see it happening, I really do like it for the Jazz, and I do like the contract. Only paying them $6 million a year. That's pretty decent. Sam Decker will also agree to sign with the Raptors. People might forgot that he was in the league. People might forgot about him, but he's a guy that's known as a shooter. Never really was a great shooter in the NBA to me. Never really became what we thought he was or should be in the NBA. But the Raptors have been known for their development. The Raptors have been known for picking up guys and making them look better, putting them in roles where they can succeed. Maybe Sam Decker can give you 10 to 15 minutes, be an injury replacement to give you 20 minutes from time to time. But, we'll see what happens with him. Um, and we got to continue to go since there's so many free agent news. Gabe Vincent has agreed to a 2 year, $3.5 million deal. This is a tryout contract. Let's try Gabe Vincent, see what he can do, see if we like him, see if we want to keep him. If we keep him, he's on a cheap deal that he can outplay. If he outplay, we can bring him back. If not, we can let him go. That's what that deal for Gabe Vincent is. Bogdanovic will stay with the Mavericks. He was a solid player for them, being able to play with Luka, play with Porzingis, give them size, finish around the rim, float around the rim, hit a mid-range in the three every blue moon, and just a big body that's unselfish, that's a team player, and that is, knows how to use his height to a certain extent. And they're not really paying him that much, and he fit perfectly to what they was trying to do. So it makes sense that they brought him back. The Spencer Dinwiddie is close to a 3 year, $60 million deal with the Wizards, but that hasn't been signed yet. That's just to keep it out there. Otto Porter agrees to a deal with the Warriors. I think that's huge just because Otto Porter has been a solid role player. That's a wing that can also shoot the three and do some small things, especially in transition and in the half court. He's playing with a team that has a lot of spacing, and he can give them more space, and he can play 4-2, and he just gives you a backup to Andrew Wiggins, which they really didn't have when it comes to scoring and size. And now they have that with Otto Porter. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander also agreed to a 5 year, $172 million extension. That's not the craziest contract. That's not an overpay. You got a guy that has got better every single season of his career. And on top of that, he also showed that he's a 20-point scorer, and he still needs some help. He's still going to need some better talent around him to become better and be able to push this team to getting back into their playoff ways. But until then, you got him locked down. You can trade him in a couple years if you want to move on. And if you don't, you got a young player that it could be a two-way player that can also be even better probably the next 2 seasons. And then that raises his trade value, but he's also young enough to where he can fit with the team that you're building and make other guys better because he is a guy that pass and unselfish too, and he's a guy that can play the one or the two, and also defend one, two, three, and four, depending on who's out there on the other side of the court. You don't want to lose that. You don't want to upset that. And the Thunder did exactly what they needed to do. Semi Ojeleye agrees to a 1 year deal with the Bucks. This is hilarious because Ojeleye is not really known as the best player, but a guy that continues to hang around the league. Just a solid body. Can really do small things. Can really play well off others. Not going to get a lot of playing time, not going to get a lot of minutes. Kind of like a third, fourth string player that just gives you depth at a position with a guy, what he can do. Don't really see anything major coming out of that deal. Ben McLemore will agree to a deal with the Blazers, not long term, not short term. It's a rental. Ben McLemore resurrected his career in Houston, just throwing up threes and getting out in transition, and he can do that in Portland. And this isn't the deals that you want Portland to make to keep Dame happy, but he is a guy that plays well, can play the shooting guard position, even the three, depending on what they're trying to do, can play off the ball and let Dame and CJ and those guys do their thing and kill them if somebody else or rotate by shooting three. Also, for Sean Holmes, agrees to a 4 year, $55 million deal. This is about what a center gets that doesn't really space the floor or shoot, but also hasn't really shown signs of being more than that. So he's just a rim runner. He plays hard. He blocks shots. He rebounds. He finishes well. Not really trying to be more than that. But also the Kings really had no other direction to go. So it makes sense that they commit to a guy that they drafted and brought in and developed and really turned into a key player for them. So that's interesting to me that they gave him this deal, but it makes sense for Rashawn Holmes and also the Kings. And 55 million, that's a good deal to bring him on. So I think that's good too. Max Struss, I think his name is, for the Heat, agrees to a 2 year, $3.5 million deal. This is just another deal to bring in the guy to see what he is, to see what he can do, and to see if he fits what you're trying to build. And you give him a little bit of a commitment in a roster spot, and that's what the Heat are doing. Dwayne Dedman will also go to the Heat on a 1 year deal. This is a solid veteran center that's a big that can protect the paint from time to time, space the floor from time to time, and rebound in the minutes. He's not going to have a huge role or a huge impact on his team. Just giving you a big body. That's all that they're going to get with Dwayne Dedman. That's all they really need. Kent Bazemore also signed a 1 year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. He has been moving around the league, but at least he's going to be on the court to let that thing fly. It's up to him if they're going to go in or not, because he's not the most consistent 3-point shooter, not the greatest 3-point shooter, but you're not asking him to be on this Lakers team. You're just asking him to come in every once in a while and just make some shots. And Ken Bazemore has shown that he can do that. So that's what you're getting with him. Blake Griffin also agrees to a deal with the Nets. He left and was crucified by everybody. He's washed up. He's trash. He's garbage. Then he went to the Knicks, and everybody was saying Blake Griffin is just too good. Played good defense on Giannis, rebounded decently, shot threes decently, finished around the paint better than what people thought, and was even dunking that ball in Brooklyn. They have so many stars that takes a lot of pressure off him. They space the floor so he can do a little bit of what he used to do, and his ability to play in the pick and roll and be a guy that can spend more energy defensively because he doesn't have to do as much offensively because they have so many weapons in Brooklyn. And with these type of shooters and these type of guys that can score, all you gotta do is make the right play or just put the ball in the basket. And Blake Griffin did that all season and really re-showed people that he still can play, he still can contribute, and he was a valuable piece for the Nets. And it's good to see him come back. Norman Powell will stay with the Blazers as they agreed to a 5 year, $90 million deal. I was surprised that he got 5 years, but he needed the long term security just because he is a guard. But he really was powerful for the Blazers, giving them a punch as a starter and off the bench, really being able to create his own shot, shoot threes, play off the ball, and being able to let them go small, and that gave them a lot of versatility. They traded for him because they feel like he can be an upgrade over Hood, a good upgrade over Gary Trent, and their goal was to bring him back, and they was able to get it done. I don't know if I would have gave him the 5 year 90, but for what he brings to the table and what he did, maybe he warrants it. But I feel like you could have got him in the 70 to 80 million dollar deal range, save you a couple million to get somebody else. But I feel like they feel like this is their guy. They feel like he fits in perfectly, so they just gave him the deal that he probably wanted. Austin Rivers and the Nuggets also agreed to a 1 year deal. Also, Rivers was huge for them. He helped them win a playoff game, basically. He really gave them another ball handler, another scorer that can get his own shot and shoot threes off the ball, and a guy that really has a lot of heart and really plays hard when he's out there. May not be the most efficient guy, may not be the greatest player, but he is a guy that's confident. He is a guy that will push you, and he is a guy that can really put the ball in the basket. And that's what the Nuggets needed him to do when they lost Jamal Murray, and they got it. So it makes sense that they'll want to bring him back in that similar role when Jamal Murray won't be back at the start of the season. And he ended up getting a 1 year deal. Devonte Graham also signed a 4 year, $47 million deal with the Pelicans in the sign and trade. I don't really like this move for the Pelicans. I'm not huge on Devonte Graham because he's so streaky. I know he brings shooting. I know he can create his own shot. I know he can play a little bit in the pick and roll, but he's still far away from a consistent player. And to lock him up for 47 million when you really don't have a point guard that you can really rely on consistently, even with Satoransky, I'm not really going crazy over this deal, and I'm not really liking it. But we'll have to see what type of Devonte Graham they get. Hasn't really shot the ball well from anywhere. It has been even inconsistent as a 3 point shooter. So I'm not really going crazy over this deal for the Pelicans. I feel like they should have went in a different direction, or should have probably tried to get somebody a little bit better, even if they had to pay a little bit more money. But he's gonna thrive in that up tempo system, and if they're gonna let him fly, he's a guy that ain't scared to shoot it, and he's a guy that can really win you games if it's going in. But he also a guy that can lose you a lot of games if they don't. So it's interesting that they decided to let Lonzo go for a guy like Devonte Graham. But we have to see where that goes. And other than that, that's really the big news that I missed from yesterday. So we're basically all caught up at this point already. A lot of small names, a couple big names are off the board, and we still got some ones that's big left, like Kawhi Leonard, like Laurie Marketing, and those guys. So a lot of $30 million deals, a lot of $5 million deals, a lot of shooters and wings still getting picked up. I also wanted to say that John Collins is still another big name that hasn't officially been locked up by the Hawks just yet, as he didn't agree to the deal. But they did give him the 100 million, and then they added a 25 on it. Now it's going to be up for him to sign it. Also, want to say the Hornets did sign Ish Smith to a 2 year contract, so they lose out on some guards and bring a guard in as a veteran that's very speedy, very quick, can really hit floaters and layups and threes and some mid ranges from time to time. You're not paying them that much. You're not going to ask them to do much, but it is good to have a good backup player that can really, add some scoring. And Ish Smith can do that on a cheap contract. Markeith Morris will also sign with the Heat. That's something that I didn't see coming, but it gives them another wing that can post up, hit mid range, hit threes, give them switchability, and gives them a guy that allows them to play small ball and give them some spacing out there, even if you want to put Bam at the 5. That will be an interesting lineup to see the Heat do, as they did lose guys like Trevor Ariza, but they added so much depth. They lost Andre Iguodala too, and now they picking up guys that can score, defend, and shoot, and switchable. The Heat look very, very dangerous right now in free agency. We just can't wait to see what they do on the court. Trenton Watford is also going to be going to the Blazer. This is a rental. They're going to try him out. They're going to see what he can do, see if they like him, see if they want to keep him. And it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that, as he is going to be waivable if they don't. And he is going to be a guy that's replaceable if they can find something better. but he is, locked into that two-way contract, which means he's not going to get paid that much. Not going to really have the security, but it's a chance for him to play in the NBA and mostly a chance to where he can earn minutes in the NBA. So that's why he took that deal. So that's another thing. So now that free agency is almost wrapped up for the day. Woof, it's a whole lot of free agents being locked up, a lot of money going around. The NBA has so much talent that even these guys that we thought was out of the league, that will be out of the league, they getting picked up and adding depth to all these teams. It's fun to see it. It really is fun to see all these people get picked up. It's really fun to see all these guys, stay in the league another year, hopefully. And some of these guys went from being starters to role players to seventh to eighth to ninth men on the bench. And those guys are key. Those guys are important just in case injuries happen and you need somebody that can come in and be productive or give you a specific skill when guys are down or not healthy and able to play. It is some big names that we are still waiting to see what they decide to do and what they're trying to do at the end of the day. And it is still some small free agents that we don't seen still get picked up throughout the day. And we're still waiting to see where these other guys go. But other than that, it's been fun today seeing a lot of these guys extend their career just another year, two, three. And it's also good to see a lot of these guys get traded and teams like, we want you to start here. We want you to come here. We'll give you a shot. We'll give you an opportunity. And guys are buying into that. It's also good to see a lot of the stars. Some of them are staying. They either went to the team or wanted to stay with the team. They know where they want to be. They love where they're at. They're loving the organization. And they're just saying, give me the extension now because the way we're going, I love it. The vision that you're showing me, I'm feeling it. I'm interested in it. I want to hear more of it. And that's why I'm staying. So it's good to see some of our all-stars, all NBA superstar players lock up early to the teams that they already a part of. And most of these teams have already been in the championship range the last couple years, and that hasn't changed in the last five. So a lot of superstars are deciding to stay. We've seen that happen 2 years ago. We've seen it happen consistently 2 years later, and that's good for the league that your stars that are home drafted or have wanted to go to a team and then they got there and now they want to stay there. And I think that's good for the league. And a lot of these guys took their name off free agency early. And a lot of these guys are taking a free agency even more serious by not even testing the waters. They're just going to go stay with the organization that they want to be with. So that's important and that's key to the success, loyalty, consistency, communication. All that is important, and that's why a lot of these guys are locking up their deals early now. Also, we starting to see some guys that can't reach a deal. We know that they're going to get picked up. We know that they're going to go somewhere. We just don't know how many years and how much money. A lot of it has to do with the power forwards and the centers, the bigs, which has been rising the last couple years. But a lot of these guys are not two-way players. They're more just offensive space and bigs or bigs that are great complementary players, depending on what team and players you have on your roster. But money is drying up, guys. There's a lot of money that's not out there like it was, day one. A lot of these guys are either traded or got picked up, or the team spent majority of their months or keeping people money, keeping these people on the roster. So some money is drying up. Still, like I said, got smaller free agents that's still going to get picked up because they obviously ain't going to sign for that much money and take that much money from the cap. But some of these guys are in a situation where either you're going to have to say I'm out because you can't reach a deal, or you're going to have to figure out a way to get closer to what you want and take a little bit of a haircut. Take a little bit less um, just to get the long term and just to get your 100 million. But if you're still in that 70 to $60 million range, you still should even consider taking a little less and take that, as a lot of these guys haven't really shown that they can be all stars or superstars. And if teams are offering that, you know, That's all you're going to get. We even seen Lonzo Ball, who hasn't been an All-Star either, get 85 million. And I don't think those deals are out there unless you're giving us 5 years. And that's going to be something interesting to see with these other guys as free agency continues to go. So day two, not as big as day one, but some heavy hitters are out. Everybody loving LA. They got a lot of veterans. They got a lot of shooting, got a lot of length, and got some scoring on their bench, which they really didn't have last year. And that's something that they have already, as they just made the Westbrook trade on draft day. And now they have added a lot of depth, on this first and second day of free agency. Talking about go-getters. They really went out there and knew who they wanted, really prioritized a lot of guys, and they roster do look pretty decent. The only problem with the Lakers is they don't really have the defenders. And that's going to be up to Frank Vogel to get these guys to buy in and play together and really bring out, some different ways out of players. Because a lot of guys they have brought in are never been known for their defense or aren't great defenders anymore. And that's something that we have to keep an eye out on, as the Lakers have been one of the best defensive teams since Frank Vogel became the head coach with LeBron. So look for, AD and LeBron to hold these guys accountable. Look forward to them calling guys out to demand greatness from them, because that's what they're going to need if they want to win a championship in the Western Conference. And we already got a lot of we already see a lot of criticism because of the Westbrook trade. A lot of people feel like he doesn't fit. A lot of people feel like he's just a regular season player that flops or fails in the playoffs, which he has shown that he can't really score and give you buckets consistently, but he plays hard. He's going to go for every rebound. He's going to find guys. He's going to drive the ball and give people easy opportunities, even in transition. And he does have a good IQ. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to play in almost every situation. It's just about him being able to put the ball in the basket. He has been one of the most inefficient free throw shooters, three-point shooters, mid-range, and basically even finishing now has diminished for Russ. Maybe he gets motivated. Maybe he gets pushed by LeBron and AD, and maybe we see a different Westbrook that we have seen, or something that was just a little bit better. He played well with the Rockets, but didn't play well in the playoffs. He played well with the Wizards as the season was ending, but he hasn't been able to put together that complete run since he's been in OKC, where he's great for the regular season and also plays at an all-star level in the playoffs. We just haven't been able to see that in so long. That will it ever happen is the way you have to think right now if you're looking at the Lakers team and how it's constructed. The Nets have really brought, a lot of guys in, and they have added a lot of depth to their roster. We just hope that Kyrie can stay healthy. He missed the playoffs last year. He missed the playoffs in the second round this year, and Kyrie is a big part of this team. But if he can't stay healthy when it matters most, this team will not win the championship. They need Kyrie, Harden, and KD healthy if they want to bring a championship to Brooklyn. But they have to be healthy. They're getting older. They're being demanded to do a lot. The best part about this year is they have a lot of weapons already. They added a lot of weapons as the season went on last year. This is a season where they're coming in with a lot of talent. They coming in with a lot of weapons from the get-go. Maybe that helps them control their body. Maybe that takes a lot of physical demand off their body because they won't have to do as much. Maybe that's a good thing. But we need them to be healthy in the playoffs if they're going to win the title. They have scorers. They have wings. They have bigs. So they have everything they need to win a title. They just need Kyrie to stay healthy for an entire playoff run, or even just be healthy when it's the conference and the NBA finals. And we just need James Harden. Will he start breaking down? The last 3 years, he's been having more injuries. He's usually durable. His durability has been going down a little bit, even when he was with the Rockets the last couple years. And he is one of the best top 10 players in the world. KD is one of the top 10 players in the world. James Harden don't have that ring. Kyrie and Kevin Durant do. Harden is still trying to capture that championship before he retires. Last year was a huge opportunity for him. but he got injured for majority of the ending of the year. Maybe he has a little bit more inspiration and comes back, basically almost led the NBA in assists, still was unstoppable when he was healthy, but now he has to do it all over again as the season is starting back at zero, and they have to work their way all the way back up to the top, which they finished second in the East with all these injuries. Even Kevin Durant missed a lot of time with injuries, but was amazing, in the playoffs. Besides 2 games against the Bucks, the Celtics, my Celtics, they don't look good right now. They just look like another team in the NBA Eastern Conference. And a lot of teams have made a lot of moves. A lot of teams have really reconstructed their whole team and their lineups. And the Celtics have made minor move, minor move, minor move, minor move, minor move. And it just doesn't look good right now. We're still going to be competitive. We're still going to be good. But it don't look like we at that championship level that we expect as Celtics fans that are spoiled. But that's a story for another day. You look at Indiana. They made some small moves, but didn't make a big move either. They trying to be healthier than they was last year. Obviously, letting their coach go, bringing in a new coach to change their identity, to get it a little faster and a little bit more speedier. Maybe Brogdon can give us that most improved season that we thought that he had a couple years ago. Maybe TJ Warren can do what he did in the bubble consistently during a regular season and become an all-star caliber player and wing alongside Sabonis. And we still don't know what's going to happen with Miles Turner. Will they continue to let the rumors go out, or will they continue to show commitment to him? He still is a great defender, still is a great floor spacer, and can really, be perfect as a complementary player, which he has been for Indiana. But even he had health problems. So that's something to keep a watch out, as Indiana is not as deep as those other teams, and they don't have a superstar like these other teams. And that's why it's going to be important that their stars and their key players stay healthy so they can make a run at the playoffs. And the biggest talk of free agency so far has been the Bulls. Trading for Nikola Vucevic, trading for Lonzo Ball, trading for DeMar DeRozan. This team just really changed overnight. They went from we don't know what we want to do with Zach LaVine to now they feel like we can compete for a playoff spot and build upon that. I love me some Vucevic. He plays hard. He rebounds. He spaces the floor. He posts up and kill every switch and mismatch and even kill some of the best centers in the NBA with his game. But now he has a little bit more help. Now he has more weapons than he even had in Orlando. And now it's time for him to really show, can he still play at the all-star level? And if he does, will him and Zach LaVine play at that all-star level? And if they do, will they be in the playoffs for the first season? Zach LaVine has never been in the playoffs his entire career. Maybe that changes this year in Chicago. That's going to be something that's also interesting to watch. We also got to look at the Philadelphia 76ers. They didn't make that big move. They haven't even traded Ben Simmons yet. What is the Sixers? Or are they just a success that we done seen them be in the regular season? But they did have a massive meltdown and complete failure in the playoffs. What is the Sixers now? Kyle Lowry is gone. We can stop rumoring Kyle Lowry to Sixers. Kyle Lowry to the Sixers. He's out. He's gone. What are the Sixers going to do now? They have a lot of chaos going on. They got a lot of pointing the fingers going on. They still have one of the best players in the league in Joel Embiid. They still have one of the best point guards in the league. But it's a lot of tension there, a lot of animosity there. And they're going to have to get on the same page, or they're going to have to make another move that we don't see coming yet to change this team and this culture that they have built in the playoffs when they all failed their goals. It's one thing to be a great regular team, but it don't matter if you don't do anything in the playoffs. And we seen the 76ers flop. They flopped. I don't think Ben Simmons was the only one that flopped. Remember, Joel Embiid turned the ball over twice. Remember, Joel Embiid missed those free throws against the Hawks that blew a 20-point-plus lead. Remember, Joel Embiid did not deliver at home when they should have closed out the Atlanta Hawks. So Big Bede has been getting a lot of passes. Big Bede has been getting a lot of sympathy. But everybody's going in on Ben Simmons. But Joel Embiid flopped just as much. Just because Ben Simmons didn't want to score or attack, Joel Embiid crumbled in big moments in the Atlanta Hawks series. and it seems like nobody's really talking about it. Nobody's really bringing it up. But I watched those games like y'all did. Joel Embiid flopped. Joel Embiid was the MVP runner-up, and he did not dominate the way that we wanted him to dominate, even against the Hawks. Not only that, he didn't even finish the Wizards series. He sat out the last two games. And we haven't even seen them get surgery yet on that meniscus. Remember, he's supposed to have a partially torn meniscus. We haven't even seen them get surgery yet. So that's going to be something interesting to watch out too. Will he get the surgery? Is it so minor that he don't need it? Can it become worse? We don't know these things. But if you're a Sixers fan, you should be thinking about that if you haven't. And that's something that's going to be interesting too, for this team, as he's been having surgery basically every year. Um, Charlotte lost a lot of guards. They lost Devonte Graham. They also lost Malik Monk and those type of guys. But James Bouknight is supposed to be that guy. I love what I've seen from him in college. He still do need to improve his handle. He still need to improve his perimeter shooting and scoring. But he's a teenager. He's young, and so is LaMelo Ball. You know, they have some young guys that's trying to take over the league, and they had to say, Malik Monk, we love what you did, but we have to move forward because you're not the guy. Maybe James Bouknight is that guy. Maybe he can become a CJ 20-point scorer that can handle the ball a little bit and score by himself, but also score off the ball if the ball is passed to him. If that is, that's a good pairing with LaMelo Ball. They also have Gordon Hayward, who, when he was healthy, he helped them win a lot of games. But the biggest problem with Gordon Hayward was he can't stay healthy the last couple years. And not only that, he's been missing significant time the last couple years, and that just can't happen when you're giving him over $100 million and you need him to be productive instead of injured. And he's been good when he has been healthy and when he has played, but he's missing so much time and so much of the games that it kind of make you wonder, will they regret this contract if he flops or get injured again this season? I know it's early because it's a long-term deal, but you want to get the best value out of the contract. And if a guy can't contribute and the guy can't consistently help you, then what's the point of even having him here? That's something that Michael Jordan and the organization is going to have to figure out as this 2021 season goes. What are we going to do with Hayward? And will we have to bite the bullet and take a loss on Gordon Hayward because he hasn't been the player that we envision him and need him to be? We still got young teams like Cleveland that locked up Jared Allen, decided not to trade Colin Sexton, so he's still there for right now. Teams was interested in him, but it seems like they're going to keep him. The problem is Colin Sexton hasn't signed the extension, but we haven't heard nothing about what he wants, what he's trying to get, what Cleveland is offering, what Cleveland is trying to get for him. Is they trying to do a sign and trade for him? We don't really know nothing about what's going on in Cleveland. We don't know nothing about what's going on with Colin Sexton. Do he want to even be in Cleveland? Do he even get along with his teammates in Cleveland? We've been hearing that teams, players don't like him. He's has tunnel vision. He's a ball hog, but people been vouching for him. He's a hard worker. He's the best player. He can get you the best value in a trade if you decide to trade him. What is Cleveland going to do with Colin Sexton? How much money will he get? How many years will he get? We haven't heard nothing about Colin Sexton, and that's just interesting that we haven't. It is. Kawhi Leonard, will he do the 1+1 where he can sign 2 years, opt out, become a free agent, and get $200 million because he played 3 years with the Clippers? They'll be eligible to give him the $200 million. He deserves it. He earned it. He's one of the top players, had an amazing performance against the Mavericks. If Kawhi Leonard isn't healthy, they don't get past the Mavericks. That's how good he was, and that's how good they needed him to be. Kawhi Leonard had to have those performances, and he did it. He still showed that he's one of the top 10 players in this league when he's healthy. So he's going to get a max from somebody, but you prefer it to be with the Clippers. They have traded everything to get him and Paul George. Paul George has already signed his extension with the Clippers. earlier last year. Not only that, they just went to the conference finals and beat the number one seed Utah Jazz basically without him. And on top of that, you know, just Kawhi Leonard. He was all defensive and all NBA first team. You don't want to lose that, especially for nothing. So you definitely got to prioritize getting Kawhi Leonard locked up. Hopefully today. But at the end of the day, it seems like he loves being in LA. He loves that the Clippers are his franchise, and let's see him get locked up eventually. So that's probably the biggest name that's still out here that hasn't been locked up outside of the other restricted free agents that we're still waiting on them also. So still waiting for things to fly in. A lot of role players are consistently getting picked up. Nothing crazy for them either as of right now. But, big news is Taylor Horton Tucker. Big news is Kendrick Nunn leaving the Heat. DeMar DeRozan going to the Bulls. And also John Collins not reaching a deal yet. Everybody knows that John Collins getting 125 offered from the Hawks. The problem with that is that's it. That's the only guy right now that we know what his money is. And everybody else we don't know nothing about, which is crazy that you have a bunch of free agents that we don't know how many years, how much money, or nothing that they want. Even though they already played in the NBA, they have already shown what they can do in the NBA, but we know nothing about what's going on with them at all when it comes to contract talks with their teams and other teams, which usually never happens, but it's happening now, which is crazy. But as we continue to wait, we also look at the Dallas Mavericks. They made a lot of moves, and they try to stay competitive and stay a playoff team, and I think they achieved that. Luka, like I told people yesterday, he's waiting to after the Olympics to sign his Supermax deal that will be worth over $200 million, which he has shown at the age of 22 that he is a franchise guy. He has shown at the age of 22 that he is a guy that can lead you to the playoffs, as he has done that the last 2 years, and also gave them a top 5 seed in the Western Conference, which people didn't believe that they would be when the season started, but that's where they was at when the season ended. And Porzingis has been getting a lot of shots fired at him, as not stepping up, not being more of a focal point. Maybe Jason Kidd can fix that, as they don't have Rick Carlisle out there no more, who really didn't want to see Porzingis post up, really didn't want to see Porzingis do a lot of these things. Maybe it's a change in philosophy. Maybe Jason Kidd comes down here and changes the entire offense and uses Kristaps Porzingis more, and allows him to be more of a focal point on this team. You don't see, even with Porzingis just being the spacing big, still giving you 20 points per game, not the most efficient from the field, but still above average from three. And we already know that he can protect the paint. We know that he can be a solid rebounder. And we already know him being at the 4 or the 5 allows Luka to play in the pick and roll with rim runners, and it allows him to get that space to where he can put people on his back, where he can hit the floater, hit the mid range, and if guys sag off for him going under that screen, he can let them threes fly. He's a dangerous player. You know how dangerous Luka is. That's why he's getting $200 million. But I didn't think that he would be an All NBA first team player 2 years in a row. When I looked at Luka in the draft, I was like, that's the number one pick. Get that guy. He won Rookie of the Year, averaged over 20 points per game as a rookie. And look how good he has been the last 2 years. And he's only 22 years old. It's just incredible seeing how good he has been. But still no crazy news. We're still waiting on that. But we also got to look at the Rockets. This is the team that a lot of people have been hyping up and been loving. They lost James Harden, a top 10 player, took them to the playoffs every single year that he was there. The year that he decides to leave, they hit rock bottom and go right into the top 2 pick, which they will get a shooting guard in Jalen Green, who has a potential to be a great scorer in this league, a guy that can be a two-way player in this league, and we just have to see how he grows and develops his body understanding of the game and how his jump shot comes along. He's showing the ability to splash them things from everywhere on the court. We just have to see him do it more efficiently and more consistently at the NBA level. But he's a teenager, so we give him some time. James Harden was an all-star out the gate, but he had a couple years in the NBA before that. But they're going in a different direction, having Sengun, having Green, having Uzman, all bring different type of styles and different type of looks that the Rockets can throw out there. Still having Deshaun Tate, still having Kevin Porter Jr., they still have John Wall, they still have Christian Wood. They have talent on this Rockets team. They had a lot of injuries, and they had a disgruntled superstar who they replaced with a lot of players in this draft, and they still have a couple more draft picks in the future. And even if they don't play well this year, that's another lottery pick that they can add to this team. Maybe they can trade some of this young talent and get a 3 that they can put with Jalen Green. That would be something that would be interesting to watch, unless they just, keep the rookies that they got and just develop them into that role. But other than that, this team is going to be a must-watch team to me. Definitely an NBA League Pass team this year. But everybody should be the Houston Rockets. They're going to be a team that is going to be very, very interesting to see how they're going to be 1 to 2 years from now, especially because Christian Wood can actually leave, I believe, because he can opt out in that 3-year deal and go somewhere else. He's a hard worker. He persevered through a lot and became a starter in a 20 and 10 caliber guy in this league. And you don't want to lose that for nothing. But you still got a lot of youth on this team, even if he decides to leave to go in a different direction. Golden State, made a lot of pickups. Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman, picked up some other players in free agency, got the long-term commitment extension from Stephen Curry, the guy that was an MVP candidate, all NBA first team, to me, the best guard in the entire NBA this season. And it's fun to see him continue to build his brand, his name, and legacy in Golden State. This is where it started. This is where he became a champion. This is where his ankles gave out and they still gave him a good deal. This is where he became a $200 million man, a father, a husband, and also, on pace to be the greatest warrior ever. And 4 more years ago with Steph Curry, you're not going to complain about that. This man has a chance to lead in assists, lead in rebound, lead in scoring, especially if he can continue to play the way he played last year, where he was must-see TV. It's crossing, slicing, dicing, embarrassing everybody that defended him. It was like a challenge. Who can stop Steph? And everybody failed. Winning the scoring championship, in his 30s, we didn't see that happening. Even if he was a Warriors fan, but it's reality now, as it did happen. So I think that that's fun, and that gives Warriors hope if you're a fan. And we just got to see if they can return to their championship ways, which they haven't been. They've been at the bottom. They missed the playoffs the last 2 years. They're trying to get back in the playoffs this year, and we're going to see if they can stay healthy and if they can do it. Draymond had a resurrective season, becoming an all-NBA defender again, being in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Didn't really have the spacing and the shooting that they needed, but they made what was due. It was one playing game away from, being in the playoffs. Just came up short. Missed a little bit of scoring, but I feel like they addressed that this year. And also, on top of that, you get Clay back, which is better than him not playing at all. Even if he's not the same defender, even if he's not the same scorer, it's still better having him play than not play at all. And it gives you confidence when he's on the court because he's just that good of an impact player and he's just that good of a shooter. You always have to pay attention to him. You always have to respect him. And, that's why they gave him the 190. And it'll be just good to see him hoop again with his brother, his splash brother, Stephen Curry. So that should be something that we all looking forward to, and should be very interested to watch. But other than that, I'm gonna check and see if any news came in about any small or big player getting signed before I end it. George Hill to sign with the Bucks after release from the Sixers. So that's the big news right now, that the veteran point guard George Hill is set to sign with the Milwaukee Bucks. He clears waivers from the release of the Philadelphia 76ers. Um, this will be interesting. That the Bucks actually get a quality starting caliber player for basically nothing, because he was waived by the Sixers. So this is a huge pickup for the Milwaukee Bucks. They get George Hill for basically nothing, which is something that they could have used last year in a playoff run. Well, this year in a playoff run, and it's something that they're getting basically falling in their lap. So I didn't see that happening. I always respected George Hill game. I always respected what he brought to the table as a solid two-way player that can play the one or the two, and also defend the one and the two. Also can hit some threes if you leave them open, if you don't pay attention to them, and that's a big deal for a team like the Bucks to get a starting caliber guy for nothing. So that's a win for the Bucks um, at the end of the day. So feel free to ask any question about the draft, ask any question about free agency, ask any questions about um, how you feel like the regular season going to go. A lot of teams really making a lot of major moves to become playoff contenders or increase their chances of possibly being the champions this year. And some teams just staying the same and just adding some different rotation players. Um, just to be better than they was last year, so they can continue their path to be champions. So I think that that's interesting, and I think that that's going to be fun to watch, to see how good these teams going to be, and to see who will be number one in the NBA. It was a surprise. Nobody expected the Jazz to be number one in the NBA. Nobody expected the Suns to be number two in the NBA. Nobody really thought that the Sixers can be number one in the Eastern Conference, and all that did happen this season. And nobody expected the Bucks and the Suns to be in the NBA Finals, and that came to reality, and that happened also this season. So this has been a fun season, pretty much for everybody that that loves basketball. So this is amazing right now to see how the NBA is going, and to seeing where the talent pool is at right now, where a lot of these teams are picking up guys for basically nothing. And at worst, people getting 3 to 5 million, even if you're a solid big. So to me, that's going to always be interesting to watch at the end of the day. So I see a lot of people are joining, a lot of people are kicking it with me. Feel free to ask as many questions as you want while I'm live. I've been live for an hour talking to my subscribers and the people that's been coming in and out. And there's been a lot of news today. Had to do 2 live streams yesterday just because news kept falling out, falling out, falling out, to the point where I was like, man, I got to eat, take a break. And then I had to go right back to the studio just to knock out another video. Now I'm back, just got off for work, and now I'm back in the studio for an hour to give y'all more free agency coverage, just because it's been going crazy since I went to sleep to when I was at work, and news is continuing to break like George Hill just did, as the live stream has been going. So this has been fun. This has been pretty cool, but whew, a lot of information happening all at once. Um, so it's been crazy, but it doesn't look like anything huge has happened still, and I don't really see as many contracts falling in. The last one to come in was George Niang signing with the Sixers. A solid rotation player at best. They're not paying him a lot of money. They're not giving him a long-term deal. and that just gives them, another size slash big that they can use just in case Joel Embiid or Andre Drummond goes down, or even a forward position, depending on what lineup and what they're trying to do. I don't see George Niang getting major minutes or being a big part of what they do, but it is still good to have that on your bench if you can get it. And now they got George Niang at that center position. So since nobody really dropping in a lot of questions, I guess in the live stream. If anything crazy happens, I'll be back at it later today. If smaller things happen, I guess I'll just do a live stream for day 3 of free agency. The big news is the Lakers get a lot of veterans scoring and shooting. Teams like Jimmy Butler and the Heat continue their aggression to get to the finals again, to have a chance to win a title and eventually win a title in Miami. We have to see if that's going to work out. And seeing a lot of these other teams just continue to add small pieces to they already established starters. So I think that's important too when you're building a team, is keeping the right type of talent around them, the right type of roles, players around them, and allowing them to play off of them and fit well with them. And we also seeing a lot of the teams at the bottom not make crazy moves. They got the cap space to get a guy, but they're not blowing it. They're not rushing it. They're not jumping into something. They saying, you know what, we'll get the guys we like. We'll re-sign the guys we have. And at the end of the day, we rather use our cap that way than get a veteran or get a guy that doesn't fit our timeline, don't fit what we're trying to do or what we're trying to build. And we're just going to be patient and see what we can do in the future when these other guys' contracts come up. So it's still a lot of big name free agents that's still out there, and there still is a lot of solid role players out there. So I guess day 3 won't be as enormous and as crazy as day 1 and day 2, but still expect something crazy to happen at least once or twice on Wednesday and on Thursday. And free agency should pretty much be wrapped up by Friday, as a lot of these deals are coming in fast. Teams know who they want, players know what they want, agents know what they want, and teams are just getting it done quick. Business is easy. I know what you bring to the table. You know what I bring to the table. Let's get together, get a deal that works out for both of us or close to what we want, and let's get moving to the next person, or get ready to work on your game and get with your teammates and get ready to have a good season. So nothing crazy. So since nobody raining in questions, I guess I end the live stream. Like I said, if anything big happens or anything crazy happens, I will upload a video to cover it. If not, I'll be live streaming day 3 of free agency on Wednesday when I get some time, and we can kick it and chill and have a blast like we did the last 2 days and on draft day. Thanks for everybody watching. Thanks for everybody that chose to check out what I had to say about free agency, whether it's now or later today. Thanks for all the love. Thanks for continuing to be subscribed. Thanks for everybody that just subscribed or will subscribe. I work a lot on reading, listening, and watching a lot of basketball. So I should be able to continue to give y'all good analysis. I'm a person that came up with basketball and analysis together. I'm a person that made the word analysis huge around this world. So thank y'all for helping me be bigger. Thanks for y'all for helping me by continuing to support any way you can. And if you want to watch on Twitter, watch on Facebook page. I also will have that available if you missed it on YouTube. Other than that, Quinn Wade, Basketball Analysis, I'm signing out. I want to check one more time to make sure nothing crazy is happening. No free agents is coming in before I end it. And I don't see anything big happening right now. I don't really see anything free agency wise happening. So I guess I will be ending this stream. Yep, so George Niang. So I'll be back later if anything crazy happens. But Quinn Wade, Basketball Analysis, I'm going.